and Dražen Kačar, and they will be talking about the topic tropical home office in a compatible time zone. So I will give them the word.
Thank you. Test 1, 2, 3. Okay, you can hear me, right? You could hear me without the mic probably, but I was told that there is a recording going on, so I need to use this for the future references, things like that, if I want to get famous later. One question first. How many of you speak only, okay, let's say it like this. How many of you don't understand Croatian? Only you. Okay, we'll keep it in English then. So perfect. So, okay, another question for you. Let's see how adventurous you've been so far and why you are here on this presentation. Because you know, most speakers, when they start giving a lecture or something like that, they like to ask the crowds questions. So I'll ask you only one question. This is, how many of you have been traveling outside of Europe without an agency? So yeah, self-organized. Okay, enough. So yeah, where are you on this presentation? You probably already have the know-how.
It normally lasts 45 to 60 minutes, and they've been cut down to 15 by the management of this fine organization, so there's nothing here for you, just so you know.
No, it's going to be interesting. I hope you get to learn some new stuff that you didn't know so far, okay? But we don't need to keep it down to 15 minutes, so I will skip the usual joke that I'm supposed to start with, and let's go. So, the tropical zone. By this, we basically mean Asia, and we'll explain later why Asia, although it's possible for somewhere else. So why would you like to do it? So let's presume that you're working for some IT company, or you have your own IT company or something like that you're flexible with your time, that your company doesn't require you to be in the office all the time. You can do some home office, remote work or something like that. The question is, why would you sit here in Zagreb when you could at least in the bad time of the year, during winter, sit somewhere else, like somewhere near the beach or on the pool and work, right? So if you are able to combine it, and here we are not talking about, let's say, moving for 6 months or 1 year outside of Zagreb to some other country and work, because this would require a totally different approach, solving the visa issues, tax issues, something like that. But let's say you're planning your vacation, you have your 2 weeks of vacation, but you also have the home office. It would be perfect to combine like 2 weeks of home office or remote work somewhere else outside and then continue with your vacation. So this is what we have done once, something similar. We have traveled a lot ourselves, so organized our own travels. So this is the things that we will be talking about today. My question to Dražen is, why would he want to go work somewhere else, not in Zagreb?
Which is a lot better than if you go in this, to the home office in the same time zone, like if you go to Sicily or Malta or Cyprus or somewhere like that, where it's pretty warm, but you'd be still in the same time zone as your normal office, so your whole day would be filled with work instead of beach.
And I was told that Linux supports calculating time zones.
Well, we don't have the time for
okay, so if you want
for lunar calendars and all that.
If you want to hear about the technical parts, you'll see in the end we are available if you pay us beer. Okay, for me, I cannot tell you anything about time zones on Linux, but he probably can. So just pay 1 beer. It's not that expensive, right? Okay, so the things you can do, first, you need to decide what kind of home office you want to have. Do you want to stay in low-budget places like hostels, guest houses, which has its advantages, or you want to something more expensive? I don't know if you knew, you could also go for a free trip on a boat, on these small sailing boats, if you are okay with being part of the crew. So this means helping out on the boat. Usually this means you'll need to stretch some konopci, how do you say? Ropes, or be a cook or something like that. I don't know this. There is one famous young Croatian politician, a little bit controversial, who did this like a few months ago and was kicked off the boat. So if some of you are familiar with that, I hope I don't have to explain further. We can talk about this also later. And there is another option. There are websites. There is a website called Workaway and some similar sites which offer for you to stay for free in exchange also for some work on the farm. This is usually, I don't know, 4 to 5 to 6 hours during the day, and then you have the free time, but you get accommodation, you get free food. So if this is something that you think would be possible for you to do to cut down on the costs, this is also what you can do. There you go. On. The question, if you decide to do this, how do you find the information about where will you go, how much is going to cost? So the first thing that we usually start with, we use this skyscanner.net site to search for the available flights to the places we want to go. There is also additional pretty useful site, Matrix ITA software, you can Google it. Also the search engine even better probably than the Skyscanner, but doesn't cover the low budget flights. This is the minus point. There are some local blogs that give you information about the extreme low prices, so this special prices when they occur. There's a Putoholičari for Croatian people. There's this Slovenian site posvetu.si or Izlet na dlani. You can Google all that if you want. Urlaubspiraten.at, which show you basically when they find some very good deal for the hotels or some very good prices and deals for the flight tickets. The only thing that you need to be careful, you cannot be flexible with that. So this is basically, okay, the low prices, I don't know, from 20th of May to 25th of May, and if you want to travel, I don't know, 2 days before, 2 days after that, you won't get this price. And be careful, you need to buy this quickly because the low prices usually sell out quite quickly. Skyscanner doesn't cover the low-budget airlines, especially in Asia, so it would be a good idea to Google which are the low-budget airlines in the places you want to go, and then check additionally their websites, because you can also find some very good deals there. The question when to travel. If you see this photo that I've put down, we've been to Zanzibar outside of the main season, so you don't always need to travel in the high season. There are advantages into traveling into the lower season. Disadvantages like you're going to have a little bit of rain, maybe, things like that, but also for you to decide what do you prefer. Dražen, you found this very useful website for the climate through the world. Can you explain?
Yeah, the site basically has information about the temperatures and rainfall in pretty much every country for every month. So you want to avoid the rain season wherever you go, just don't go through the rain season, and there you can then find out where is the the best time to visit some country or the acceptable time to visit some country. So okay. Basically, if you want to travel right now, basically only the Indonesia is not that rainy, because now the rain season has started pretty much everywhere else. But in the winter, everything else is dry, and in Indonesia you have a lot of rain. So if you decide on the month, then you go there and find what's available, or if you decide on the country, then you find here when to go there.
Okay, regarding this VPN comment, so if you decide to go, let's say, to China, so you need also to Google and to find out if there are any restrictions in the countries where you will be traveling. So if you're traveling to China, it would be a smart idea to check what are the limits for their connections outside of China to the outside world, if you'll be able to connect to your work at all, if you'll need to set up some additional VPN or something like that to circumvent the regulations, so also take that into account. Since we are still a little bit into the COVID times, most of the Asian countries have discarded the COVID rules. In most cases, you are able to travel only with the test or something like that, but also you need to take care of that. Always buy travel insurance. There are good reasons for this. And for these COVID restrictions, they also require you to buy additional travel insurance that will cover also situations of getting sick of COVID. And check your visa requirements because, for example, if you want to go to Thailand, it's no longer possible to buy visa in Zagreb, to go to consulate in Zagreb and get visa. You need just to send your passport to Budapest, get your passport back from Budapest, so this is also a little bit of complications. There are countries that enable you to buy visa online for not a big fee, but you also need to take care of that. If you intend to stay longer than 2 weeks or 1 month and work, so especially longer than 1 month, then the visa regulations are different. This is what you can do on tourist visa. If you intend to work for longer, then you need to take care of getting different type of visa and thinking about how you're going to pay your taxes. This is not something that we can cover in 15 minutes.
Yeah, but it's usually possible to extend the visa for additional month.
Yeah.
But you have to check country by country.
In some countries, you just need to cross the border and get back, sometimes even on the same day, and to extend your visa locally then. But yeah, it's doable, you just need to find out how. There are useful sites for this. For the places to stay, we usually use Booking.com or Agoda to book our stays. I did use Airbnb a few times, but I don't usually do that. There's lately been lots of talk about the quality of service of Airbnb, especially outside of Europe. Problematic if you go to USA with them. There's been plenty of scams, problems, things like that, where they don't give refunds. And there are some, and what additional thing you need to know, there are some countries and cities where Airbnb is legal. It's even as close as in Germany in some places. And if somebody offers the accommodation on the Airbnb through that, it's questionable what's going to happen if you have luck or not. The good thing to do would be use Hotels Combined. This is a website that searches through this Booking, Agoda, and a lot more sites, so it's an aggregator. You just put the location where you want to go to Hotels Combined, and it will search and show you which of the sites has the lowest price, so you can choose. Another way to check, so Hotels Combined and Trivago are aggregators. You can also look for the accommodation on Google Maps. They also show you the price range and sometimes the direct contact to the accommodation that you want, and you can arrange your stay directly with the owner, probably with a lower price because they don't have to pay for the fee. And the things that I've also been using is things like this local websites, Megabond, Crno Jaje, and similar, because here you can also get at least 20 to 30% lower price, and there are equivalents to these sites all over the world where you also can search for local accommodation or even restaurant prices, lower prices and things and similar. It's not like 50% discount like they write, but usually it is at least 10 to 30% discount for what you would be offered from them. Also, you need to take care of your transportation because you need to solve in advance the issue on how you're going to get to the airport because you're flying probably somewhere outside of Europe. What you're going to do when you get there. If your flight is arriving late in the evening, like after 10 p.m., that you need to know and be careful because the local transportation might not be working. The shuttle buses won't be working, so you might be stuck with a taxi. My recommendation would be don't get your taxi arranged by the hotel or accommodation. Arrange it locally without them because hotels usually send the taxi for you, but you'll pay like 50% premium, higher price than if you would do it there on the site. Use the applications like Uber or Bolt or things like that to get lower prices taxes, but also be aware that if you use those types of applications, it might be long to wait for a taxi because not everybody over there are signed into it, so you might need to, or you'll get canceled drives, but you can also explain this later. When you want to explore what you're going to do on the places where you have arrived, these are the blogs or the sites that we use to see what's interesting. I can recommend the TripZilla, Travelfish.org, and Culture Trip. My favorite is actually the culturetrip.com for discovering what's interesting for the sightseeing, what are the good restaurants, what are the good places to hang out, things like that. Very useful is Wiki Travel because it will give you basic information also about the transportations, where to go, what to do, how to get from one place to the other place, because you always, okay, I want to get from city A to city B, how do I do this? You will basically find this type of information, and of course you will Google it because you'll just type how to get from city A to city B, and you'll find a few blogs that tell you how much would the price be and what is there a public bus, should you take a private driver, because don't forget it's Asia, private drivers are also not too expensive. Atlas Obscura is also a website that tells you what are the interesting places to see that are not that typical and that touristy.
It's bizarre things like churches made of bones and skulls and things like that.
Find the Facebook groups that are for this area where you want to travel, for the traveling groups. Join them. When Couchsurfing was alive still, there were Couchsurfing groups for local get-togethers. So you're a tourist, you arrive to Lebanon, let's say, want to meet some other tourists and local people. There were groups on Couchsurfing that were like, okay, in 2 days we are arranging for a get-together, we're going to the dinner together. Perfect opportunity to join something like that. There are blogs on the internet, some are useless because they just tell you, oh, I had a great experience. Some are great because they tell you, okay, this is how you do it. This is what's recommended. This is how much it's going to cost you. And if you want to earn money and you are traveling, think about starting your own blog. Another thing that I could recommend is using Google Maps to find food. So to find the local restaurants where you want to eat in the price range. The thing that I do is I look at the stars, how many stars the restaurants got and how many reviews. This second part is especially important. And when were the last reviews? If the last reviews were like 2 years ago, it could be that the place is closed, happened to me more than once, and they just didn't update it. This is especially situation now with COVID, with Corona in Asia, because most of those places have been closed. They don't actually update it because they don't care about it, so you get there and you stay hungry because it's not working. I think we have to be a little bit quicker because the first group took a little bit more time. Okay. I don't want to go into more details. I'll just tell you how much money you can expect to spend. So there was information that if you want to live for a month somewhere in Asia, you can live quite comfortably with $1,500 a month. If you're just traveling, no one can tell you because it depends on what you want to spend. Checklist. So. Let your bank know that you will be outside of the Europe because they can block your card if they see transactions that are not local. Get Revolut if you don't have it, there are reasons for that. Check the power source. Don't get into accommodation that has like, we are eco-friendly solar powered because your computer might not work after 9 p.m. when you need it most. Get a local SIM card. It's cheap. It's not more than 100 kuna also. So $15 for 1 month for the gigabytes, it will probably be enough. Do the copy of your documents, put it on paper and on the cloud in case they get stolen and you lose them. Use packing cubes to pack your luggage. So this is what it looks like. These are the problems or the interesting things that happened to us on our last trip. So just keep in mind that things can happen. Your plane will be delayed or cancelled. You need to be on the meeting the next day if your plane gets cancelled. It's a very usual thing these days. So in the last few months. If you want to be in Asia and drive a bike, don't drive it without a license, although they will let you get a bike and drive it without a license, because if something happens, you're not covered. Your insurance won't pay because you don't have a license for driving the bike in Europe. Get your international driving license, and if you don't have it, just don't drive a bike properly. We did our bike tour, but you see those two guys, they were our drivers because we couldn't drive a bike and decided it's a better idea to have some real drivers around. Okay, this was extremely rushed now. Sorry for that. If you want to know more details over here, you can grab a beer. We can grab a coffee or sugarcane juice.
Do we have time for questions?
Not really. So my last question: are you ready to go? Perfect. If not, just don't find excuses. There's always a workaround. Your IT guys, you know there's always a workaround, right? Might cost, but there's a workaround. Okay. Somebody who wants to talk, we're available later.
Okay, we can do this normally if you buy a beer.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm sorry for.
No problem.
Sorry.
Možete li ovdje dati?